One of the things that makes this evening so special and the work of the IFA so important is the fact that although all of you are competitors, and I know you are because I see you at games, and I know you want to beat the team on the other side of the ball, but you can come together to form a celebratory event that features all 8 of our schools, that features our league. That is truly special and unique, particularly in today's world with the flux going on in conference movement. We are a family, and I love that this dinner is like a reunion, and it features Ivy League athletics.
Dr. Thomas G. Catena, Brown University.
Anti-label, very anti-status. He's not a guy that sort of puts on airs or is full of himself. And one of the examples that things we had talked about was he got a Lacoste shirt once as a gift, or maybe a hand-me-down from you.
Probably.
Who is just the opposite of that.
Exactly.
And I think he gave it, he cut the alligator off because he thought it was sort of putting on airs or something he really didn't care about. And that's just sort of the way he is. It's kind of his personality, sort of how he approaches life is, what you see is what you get.
Top student, top athlete, and you'd never know it. Here's a guy who should be the 900-pound gorilla in the room, and you'd never know it. He was almost like on low battery mode full time until somebody did something like they flick his ear, and he'd crash through walls to come get you.
The one quality I think of when I think of Tom is this perseverance and determination, which he really, I think, is what separates him from people who may have more talent, that he just is so hardworking and will never give up until he does whatever he does to the best of his ability. And really, I think that's all you can ask, is that somebody gives his best, and he always does, no matter what it is, sports, athletics, life in general.
I think a lot of it comes from his faith and his spirituality. He was very strong but silent in the faith.
Those characteristics, you don't really sit back and pause, when you're 19, 20, 21 and say, wow, what is it that makes somebody maybe a little different than somebody else? But thinking back on it now, you could see that there was an intensity about Tom, but an intensity in a way that he was making sure the team was getting taken care of. And I stood behind him, as did, we had a lot of great defensive players on that team. I'm not going to name them because they might be sitting in the audience. And if I leave out one, I'm going to be in trouble. But we were a tight group, and we prided ourselves on our defensive intensity. And Tom was an all-Ivy nose guard, literally at the center of that defense.
Catholic Medical Mission Board was created 100 years ago by a person who was a volunteer doctor. And over the years, we've had thousands of medical volunteers go out across the world, but most volunteers go for 1 year. Tom Catena has been a volunteer for the last decade in Kenya and now in Sudan, and he's serving the poorest of the poor in a war-torn area now. And in fact, last year, we tried to get Tom to come home. We had to do a medical evacuation in which we evacuated 3 other American volunteers out because the nearest runway was being bombed by Sudan forces, and Tom refused to leave. He felt like too many people over the last century have turned their backs on the people of the Nuba Mountains, and Tom wanted to stay there to help those people.
You know, for me, it's initially when the fighting started. This is about more than a year ago. Almost all the expatriates that were here left. They were evacuated out. And for me, I think the initial thought was, in good conscience, I cannot leave the hospital. I was the only doctor here. I'm still the only doctor, pretty much for all Nuba Mountains. So I think for me, it was fairly simple. In good conscience, I could not live with myself if I just packed up and left the place and left all the people here in that situation. So that was kind of the initial thought. Like you can't leave. I mean, you got to stick it out. And I was very comfortable with that. I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel like I was going to die here. I thought, this is just how it's got to be. I mean, I think through the grace of God, it worked out. We were taking care of the people.
Here was an Ivy League football player, a scholar athlete, if you will, that had the world at his doorstep, graduating with a degree in engineering, as an Ivy League and All-American football player, a Rhodes Scholar candidate, and chose to go forward and pursue a career in medicine, graduated from the Duke School of Medicine. Well, during that time, after Tom became a flight surgeon, he volunteered for several tours in Africa and realized that his calling was really from a higher level. He's really put aside any monetary rewards, any rewards of position. He's totally put his self-interest aside. And had it not been for Tom Catena, God knows how many thousands of people wouldn't be here today. In the words of Gus White, Brown's honoree in 2011, he is truly a modern-day Albert Schweitzer.
How proud we are.
Yes.
How can I say proud that I'm proud of Tom? I am thankful to God for sending us Tom and our family into the world.
That's about caps it very well for me too. He was an extremely unassuming, and is an extremely unassuming young man with, I get with great character and an ability to laugh at a lot of things that are real sad and sometimes not sad, but real cruel and unhealthy. But he takes life as it is and looks at the best side of it always, and that's Tom.
Marcellus Wiley, Columbia University.
I'm from this area, man. I was born, raised in Compton, went to schools around here, and was told that I couldn't make it to the NFL. I was told that I was too small. I was told I wasn't a good enough athlete. I was a high school safety and high school running back. I was 6 feet, 180 pounds, ran like a 4'8", 4'9". Okay. But that's where I was at that time. And at that same time, I was on a team with a lot of guys who went to Division I schools, big schools, and were told that they were going to the NFL, and I wasn't. And then I went to Columbia University, which is an Ivy League school. I wanted to put my education first and have a safety net. Just in case football didn't work out, I would have an opportunity of success because of my education. From there, I start getting a little bigger, a little faster, a little stronger. Why? Because I remember when I was a 4'9" player, they told me I couldn't make it. So I kept working on it.
You can't help but be drawn towards Marcellus Wiley. There's a bigger-than-life quality, an intensity that makes you remember this remarkable man. The road traveled for Marcellus Wiley begins with a thoughtful youth, looking beyond the life he knew as an inner-city kid from Compton. His choice to attend Columbia mirrors a deeply rooted eloquence that understands and defines the work, the challenges, the belief to strive to be everything you have the potential to become.
Being a part of these geniuses that actually thought that the world was going to change as soon as they graduated, and to have that kind of confidence in something outside your athletic ability, which is what I was used to. These people were saying, we're going to touch the world beyond X's and O's, and they were going to become CEOs and poets and Wall Street execs, and just looking at these guys challenge themselves and to have that balance all in one school, one campus, that was the best about the experience.
Honesty. I think he's extremely thoughtful. He says what's on his mind, and I like that. He really is one of those rare people that if he sets his mind to something, he's going to accomplish it. And he doesn't quite understand why that doesn't happen for everyone. And then I think he really has learned how to achieve what he wants to achieve, but not at the expense of anyone else.
Well, it's rare when the best football player, the most talented player you ever coached, is the best leader you ever coached. And Marcellus was both of those. He was a terrific player on the field, but he really developed more when he left Columbia. He had another 2 or 3 years to go because he had just moved to a new position. So he impacted us on the field, but his impact off the field was phenomenal. He's just one of those guys that got it. He understood what winning was about. We hadn't won in a long time. He understood the work involved. He understood the commitment day to day. Was just an unbelievable emotional leader.
Well, I think the interesting thing about Marcellus, he's extremely driven, never had a bad day, everything was possible, no hill was too high to climb, and he was enormously inspirational and a big leader on the team. He really took the team on his back. And despite the fact that Marcellus was extremely driven to want to be a professional football player, never let it get in the way of the team being first. And in fact, Marcellus played and led one of the greatest teams in Columbia football history.
He took a year out of school. There was 1 year where he was out of school for a year, right after his junior year, and he came back a year later. And I think it was in that time at home where he realized how quickly this could all disappear. And I think that really has been a catalyst in him embracing every moment of this and not taking it for granted.
Well, the real story was, so Bruce Smith, when Marcellus was drafted by the Bills, Bruce Smith was the guy that he was backing up. And anytime Marcellus would get in the game and he would make a positive play, you know, people in the stands and even some of his teammates would say, "Who's that dude?" And Marcellus ended up taking that and turning it around and saying, "You don't know who that dude is? I'm that dude." And it translated from there to, you know, we're at a party, we're at a nightclub, we're, you know, at a restaurant, and he's just took it and said, "You know what? I'm that dude." That everybody wants to know who's that guy.
The road travel, you know, from Compton to Columbia to ESPN, it's just been a blessing to go to these levels and to those extremes. You know, I think anybody will be happy with just one of those, you know, in a single lane experience. But to have them all culminate in one experience and still many chapters left to be written, I can't title it just yet because it just seems like I'm just getting into the middle of the book.
It may be too early for Marcellus Wiley to write his book, but what a book it would be. Inspiring, entertaining, full of life and hope, and the qualities that could serve so many so well.
I think in today's world, our most precious asset as people is time. reality is that Marcellus is so generous with his time, with his programs in LA. You know, he's always going out to see the kids and provide inspiration. I think that's really, really something else that makes us very proud to have Marcellus as our honoree this year.
You know, people see you on television all the time, and it just makes me proud to know that you're a Columbian, you played football for us, you represent the Ivy League, and you represent Columbia with a great deal of integrity and class. You just make me smile. You just make me happy every time I see you.
I guess I always had belief in my potential, and I guess it was a bigger belief because I didn't know what that potential was. Jackie Blackett really helped me out. Columbia definitely helped me understand that there were bigger things ahead, but I had to obviously learn the process, respect the process, and work hard throughout the process. I had no understanding and idea what that process was going to Columbia, so had no idea what I was going to become. But since I was 7 years old, I've always had this inner belief that I can do some great things in this world. Columbia just helped me define what great was.
Tim Raine, Cornell University.
Is there a makeup person?
Did we get a makeup guy? We're sorry, Mr. Marinero.
No, wait. You don't have a makeup person? Hey, do me a favor. Can you move the camera? This is my better side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 second there.
At Cornell, I mentioned one of the things that really made a big impression on me was the diversity of the student population, the diversity of the academic curriculum, the kinds of people that you met, alumni that came back. And it really made me appreciate that someone who could be very different, coming from a very different background, could do excellent work, either academically or athletically, and really gave me an appreciation for the strengths of people from all over.
I think it's obviously very commendable, and it must mean that he had a very positive experience while he was at Cornell and enjoyed the camaraderie and enjoyed the people around him, and then to get involved with the program as much as he had, as I would commend the Ivy League Football Association for what they've done to basically preserve football within the Ivy League. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment, and I think what Tim has done to help football at Cornell, it takes that to have a good program in collegiate sports and to maintain that enthusiasm for a program.
Tim, first I want to tell you personally congratulations, and congratulations also on behalf of Cornellians everywhere, especially those who appreciate all that you have done for Cornell football. You were there to start the Cornell Football Association, and you've been there ever since. Whenever we've needed help, you've been very generous with your support, very generous with your time. You've been an ambassador for Cornell football. And so you've helped to make this very important part of the Cornell experience even better for the student athletes and the coaches and, of course, the fans. But that's not the only reason that we're very proud of you tonight, Tim. As a physician, I'm so in awe of all the things that you've done to help community health through the Cancer Institute of New Jersey, the North Jersey American Heart Association, and of course, Freedom House. These kind of voluntary health agencies are part of the glue that keeps us together as communities, and we're so proud of all the things that you have done. I also know that your fraternity, Delta Upsilon, is very proud of you, and your class, the class of '79, has also honored you as a distinguished alum. Tim, thank you and congratulations, and go Big Red.
Get the boom out of my face. It's in my shot. Now I gotta pee.
After having worked with Tim for a long time and having, not picked him to be my successor, but was part of the process that selected him as my successor. When you leave after all those years, a lot of CEOs worry about what's going to happen to the company I spent so much time with. And I will say that, one, I never had any doubt that Tim was the right person for the job. I never had any doubt that he would do the job well, and I've never had a sleepless night worrying about anything that Tim has done, because he has very high integrity, very high standards.
All right.
You ready?
I think we are. Let me just check the audio.
The audio's fine. Ready?
Yeah.
Tim, congratulations on an honor well deserved. You were an inspiration to me when I went to Cornell. I heard all about the Tim Ring reputation and... What? When did he play?
After.
He came after me?
You know, I'm fortunate enough to run a company, and often investors will ask you, you know, what's the one thing that keeps you up at night, or what about this, or what about that? And my answer is, hey, you know, look, I've got 4 kids. Those are the things that keep me up at night. The rest of the things I deal with are all, it's just business and work and a job. But, you know, dealing with setbacks and defeats and problem solving, I think, is one of the biggest attributes that makes a person successful or not in life. And clearly, you know, through athletics, you learn a lot about problem solving.
Tim, thank you for all that you've meant to Cornell University athletics and to the university writ large. Thank you for the support you've provided the Office of Financial Aid to help young men and women attend Cornell. And thank you so much for the impact that you've made on Big Red football. We appreciate you so much. We hope you have a terrific evening, and go Big Red.
Tim, congratulations. Your time on the campus, where you've shared your expertise in the medical device industry, has been invaluable, especially to students in the College of Human Ecology. This generosity should be no surprise, because we've seen it in your life at home as well, evidenced by your work for the Kennedy Center and the Children's Hospital in Mountainside, New Jersey. You've made us very proud, and we're delighted to celebrate you tonight. A hearty congratulations.
Mr. Marinero, we just need one more shot from you, sir.
What? Tim, I want to sincerely congratulate you for this well-deserved honor. You are a credit to Cornell University and to Cornell football. You've inspired a lot of people who've come after you. And I know you continue to do that. And I hope we can go and have a little cocktail at the end of the night.
You know, if I could maybe give some advice more than anything else, I think the more you can do to get exposed to more things at a very early age, the better off you're going to be. And, you know, it can be good things, it can be bad things. You know, as I go through and talk to my own kids as they're working through their own career. You know, they may work for a boss that's not a great boss. I said, you know, I know it feels bad right now, but you're actually going to learn something working for somebody you don't think is a great boss that later on is going to benefit you, either when you're a boss or in some other way. You just don't realize it, and it doesn't feel like that at the moment. That can apply to coaches, that can apply to all kinds of things in life.
Tim Ring comes from an old-school approach of hard work, an approach of doing, not just talking. Building a career and family life, believing in people and the possibilities of being the best you can be. Tim Ring lives the spirit of Cornell in everything he does. Willie Boga, Dartmouth College.
One of my coaches, unbeknownst to me, responded to a questionnaire from Dartmouth College, from the Dartmouth Athletic Department, about whether Albion High School had any athletes that were also good students and that might be able to compete at Dartmouth College. And that started a process that ended up with my being exposed to Dartmouth, understanding what Dartmouth was all about, what the Ivy League was all about. One of the things that has stood out over the years about that experience was that my coach saw in me a potential Ivy League student athlete. And that's not even something that I saw in myself at that time, which illustrates how powerful it is when other people believe in you and advocate for you.
His size and speed, instincts, really paid off. I mean, he was one of the best, if not the best, defensive backfield in the Ivy League at that time. I mean, he was all over the field.
He was so fast and so big and so long that the other teams never really challenged him. So the corners could play really aggressive pass defense, knowing that Willie had them covered deep, and the linebackers could play aggressive run defense, knowing that Willie would be there if anyone made a mistake. So he made it, we had a stunning attacking defense, and it was made possible by the way Willie played safety.
This was a time of significant social change. There were some times when the social aspect would maybe filter in just a bit into the football. And I remember one occasion, I was wearing this big afro, and Coach Blackman came up to me and he said, "Bogan, don't you think you should cut that hair?" And he said it to me where no one else was around. And when I thought about it, years afterwards, I thought that at least he did not try to make that a big issue. It was an individual thing. He pointed it out to me. I didn't acquiesce, and he let it alone.
A great part of Willie's leadership was performance on the field. And if he could do it, then the other guys expected that they should do it too.
We started out, and it was not easy. And we got better, and we continued to work hard. And one of the things that I've learned that in life it's really the same way, that we have our ups and downs, that the trajectory that we have in our careers may not be a straight trajectory. There are challenges along the way, and what I learned is that success is not the absence of setbacks, but it's the ability to persevere through those setbacks.
Well, Willie was sort of, I would almost call him like a gentle soul. He was a very sensitive guy, interestingly, very big, powerful guy, but a very sensitive guy. And he had he was a little bit more of the moral force on the team, I think. And he'd always, sort of counsel us as what really would be the right thing to do. I can think of a number of situations where we were a little bit cocky as a team, and Willie would always inject a little bit of humility into the team and so forth. So I thought that was a good, he played a really tempering role on the team.
One of the things I'm proudest of is the Academic All-America Hall of Fame Award. And that's because, one, it recognizes former academic All-Americans, but it's looking back at your collection of activities and accomplishments in the past, but it also looked at what you were doing at the time of the award, and it recognized community service. And I thought it was really neat that I was being recognized for doing something that was what I was supposed to be doing. Shortly after I graduated from law school and began my career as a lawyer, I was approached by some community members in Los Angeles to become a part of the Watts Willowbrook Boys and Girls Club. This was an opportunity really that I had been working for. That is, to be in a position and in a place to be able to give back something to the community. I was in a lot of ways like these kids, that I had some challenges coming from a family with 9 children and limited financial resources. I understood the power of dreams and the power of seeing possibilities beyond your boundaries. One of the most memorable things for me was one of the kids, after one of our get-togethers with the kids, asked me to write Rhodes Scholar on his T-shirt, and I knew that I'd made a connection there, that we were making an impression, that these kids were not thinking just about athletics, but academics as well.
I think Willie Bogan, if you look at Willie, hey, he's smart, He's a summa cum laude, Rhodes Scholar, big, tough, all East, played professional football, and worked hard. Not only football, he went to Stanford Law School. He had everything, and but his work ethic was beyond. And so he's the kind of guy that really stands tall for Dartmouth in these sort of circumstances. He's among the best.
Jerry Jordan, Harvard.
Actually, Harvard did not make sense to me. I wanted to go to MIT, and I was accepted both at Harvard and MIT, and Harvard said, we've got a great scholarship for you, and MIT said, I'm sorry, you're going to have to figure out how to pay your own way. So it was Harvard.
Jerry Jordan is one of a rare breed whose humble beginnings infused a desire to succeed. Seizing opportunities with a driving work ethic, Jordan marched to his own beat, building a legacy of giving back and mentorship.
Here's a guy who, knew where he was going, I think, from a young age. And he grew up in Revere. He did very, very well in school, sports. Decided he wanted to go to a place like Harvard, get in here, and he made the best of it in every way. He made good friends, played sports, worked hard in his studies, and just a terrific guy. If everybody who came to Harvard did things the way he did, it'd be pretty amazing. And we have some pretty amazing people.
Jerry Jordan's devotion to Harvard began when he was an undergraduate, living in Winthrop House and excelling on the football field. And now, decades later, he is an exemplary university citizen. He served the university in so many ways since his graduation from the college and the business school. He's been a very distinguished member of our Board of Overseers. He's supported stem cell research. He's been a fervent supporter of Harvard athletics. And he also has been one of our most devoted supporters of financial aid. He supports 60 Jordan Scholars every year who are proud to wear that label and represent among the most talented students in our university.
I was a financial aid guy, and I know that Jerry was a financial aid person as well. And it's clear, given how much he has given to the school, for the athletics program, for the business school, for research, financial aid, that he's appreciated his time over at Harvard. He does not feel as if he's entitled to that degree at all. And he gives back, and he wants the same for any other financial aid student. And without Jerry, a person such as Jerry, I wouldn't have been able to go to Harvard.
I think Jerry's been really an inspiration to me and our players. And I say that because here's this kid from Revere, Massachusetts, who came to Harvard, worked his tail off, became enormously successful in so many different facets of his life, and yet remains this humble, authentic guy that keeps giving back. That's the kind of role model that I want my players to see.
When I think about the type of leader I want to be, I think very much about the type of influence Jerry had on my life. Being a mentor to other people, helping them by listening, by offering advice, by lending support in any way that I can is something that I learned from Jerry. And the impact on my life and the impact I hope to have in the future is all because of Jerry's influence.
Jerry is very good ball player, but he's somewhat humble about it. He says, I only played second string. He was second string behind an all-Ivy standout, Bobby Boga. In those days, you didn't have specialization like you have today. We had limited substitution, and each team was playing really two teams. So Jerry was second team, but he played half the game as a left end. So his strength, if you look at the game film, you see on defense, forcing ends, forcing backs, forcing passers, and then on offense as a blocker more than a pass receiver. So that was sort of the 1960s, late 50s, 1960s, early 60s football scheme, not just at Harvard and the Ivy League, but generally around the country. Well, everything looks the same except for the players. The players are enormous. God,
The thing that I'm amazed at is the amount of time they spend on football during the season. I mean, it's just extraordinary. The other thing, the summer employees I have, they all talked about all year long, they have to lift weights 3 days a week. They have to be there at 6 in the morning, and at 6:01 the door's locked, and they have to come back some other day.
That's a lot of discipline, a lot
we
of
had it
perseverance.
pretty easy.
One thing about Jerry that is sort of important to note is he's a guy who is very loyal to his friends. He cares about people, and throughout his life and career, there are people who are good friends of his that have had tough problems, tough difficulties, and he never runs away from them. Quite the contrary. He gets in and does everything he can to help them work through the problems, and some of them have been tough.
An informed speculator, Jerry Jordan's knowledge, experience, and investment know-how allows him to engage in a variety of philanthropic efforts.
I have given a lot of money away to charity in various areas and for different reasons, but most of all it's towards institutions typically that are going to enhance the life and certainly the development of individuals who can't necessarily afford to do that themselves.
And I just want to say to Jerry and to his wife, Darlene, thank you for everything you do for Harvard and everything you do for higher education.
But I'm glad I went here. They took me in. I went to Harvard College. I went to the Harvard Business School, and I never paid a penny. Think about that. When I graduated, I owed them a lot. So I shared with them. It's a wonderful place.
The spirit Jerry Jordan exudes is one of confidence that owes much to the rich traditions of Harvard. Traditions that are of action as well as thought. Traditions that build upon legacies that inspire others and allow like-minded individuals to follow while leading.
I don't know, Jerry, time for a beer?
I think it is, Mike. Good for you. By the way,
are you buying?
With so much that of Harvard we carry away in the place of the life that we leave, and only the years that efface and destroy give us also the vision to see what we owe for the future, the present, and past. Fair Harvard, to thine and to thee. Robert Wolfe, the University of Pennsylvania.
Bob Wolfe, to me, personifies the Penn Scholar athlete. He is energetic and giving. He has gone out in the world and made the most of his Penn and Wharton education. He gives back to Penn and he mentors young Penn alums and Penn students. He's been a successful entrepreneur, a great executive and manager of people, and he's also a very close advisor to President Obama on his big initiative on jobs and competitiveness.
We came together as a team our junior year, and it was something I'll never forget. The bonds and the camaraderie is special even today. And as you all know, that was our first Ivy League championship since '59, and it was beating Harvard with that amazing kick by my college roommate David Shulman. And we just had, you know, an experience we'll never forget. It seems like yesterday when we were running on the field and all the fans were taking the goalposts together to the Schuylkill River to throw it in the river. I don't think it's something that you can make up. I mean, it's that underdog story that really comes to fruition, but you actually were not in the movie, you actually lived it.
Well, you know, as all 18-year-olds, when they come in freshman ball, everyone is pretty much all everything in their counties and states. So I'd say everyone's a little bit cocky coming in, so Wolfie was no exception. And at the end of the day, we instantly hit it off as friends, and we started really from that day on, 32 years ago, just joined at the hip and going through that experience together. Bob was, you know, very intense, very focused, and very process-driven, and I think that's carried through to a lot of his character today.
You know, I think one of the things that I remember most about him is just the way he carried himself. You know, the fact that he was just a natural leader. We had this great balance between, you know, kind of new kids coming in and the older regime, who had these leadership qualities that, quite frankly, resulted in us having an amazing season. You know, we won the Ivy League championship that year, and I think it was a great balance between the underclassmen and upperclassmen. We were young and energetic, and yet we had these senior class who was, you know, great leaders who had been there before. I think that's really why we had so much success, not only that first year when I met Robert, but you know, the Penn legacy continued after that, and we restored Penn football to its glory.
You know, I get asked often, who's my role model? I mean, obviously, my dad has been a huge inspiration in my life. He's the one that told me and taught me that it's all about family first. But with respect to Penn, it's really not one person. It's the concept of being an alum who gives back, especially a football alum. Really, when I look back, I think the role models of Penn are really the alums who give back. And, you know, to me, it's the guys in the red and the blue.
Forging leadership qualities early in life and appreciating the bonds of camaraderie have always been a part of Robert Wolf. Working his way through the ranks of Wall Street and establishing himself as one of the most trusted advisors to our nation's leader, Robert Wolf remains a man who continues to give back.
Everyone knows I'm pretty politically active. You know, I'm a big Democrat, and people always say, you know, Robert, you're a Wall Street guy, but you're a big Democrat. How did that really happen? Well, truth be told, it's in my blood. I was born that way. I was born in '62. My brother was born in '60. We're both from the Boston area. He's John, I'm Robert. I sometimes joke to my mom that maybe she was Rose for a few nights. Sorry, Dad. But, you know, we were born in that fashion of giving back. I'm actually proud. I'm on the Robert F. Kennedy Foundation. My wife works there. My son interned there. I'm very close with the family. It's been a great bond I forged over the last few years.
And he has a great vision, and he's able to bring people around him and create change that's going to impact all of our futures. Since he became a member of our board, we doubled our budget, and we doubled it again. But that's just the beginning. He's really helped us bring his business vision and expertise to bear on a nonprofit, and that's made all the difference in the world.
He cares about an awful lot of things, and he's really stretched himself very thinly, but he's made time for everything. He's made time for his kids and coaching his kids basketball and other recreational programs. He's made time to be a guest coach. He's made time to be on our board of overseers for Wharton School. He's made time, you know, to mentor our kids. That's just the personality that Robert is. He's just an outstanding guy, and he's just a guy that loves to give back and find satisfaction in doing so.
Robert has been a member of our athletics overseers for quite a while, and you know that group is a tremendous counsel to me and advisors, and it's not just the philanthropic part of it, it's also his counsel, his generosity, his good advice, his sound advice. He's somebody I would turn to whenever there's an issue that I think I need some leadership on.
And those moments on the field were very, very special. And nobody knows except us what happened. And you know, his positiveness, his preparedness, his desire, his discipline, it rubbed off on everybody. And that's the mark of a champion. And Robert has conducted his life like a champion, and there's no mistake about that.
Today, whether it's in business or philanthropy or with families, you know, the network of being a Penn Quaker never ends.
84 yards.
that Penn might try.
And Penn wins the Ivy League title.
Robert H.B.Balwin, Princeton University.
In trying to come up with an honoree that met the criteria of having played football and also achieved either in his profession, in his community, Bob was a pretty obvious choice. I mean, when you consider his record at Princeton, which was, you know, that he had played football, he had played 3 sports, he was the Roper Cup winner, which is to the outstanding student athlete of his class, Phi Beta Kappa, and then to go on and be an integral part of a major investment banking firm, one of the preeminent firms in the world, and being a driving force of that, and also having served as Undersecretary of the Navy, in addition to his Navy service, is exactly the kind of person that the Ivy Football Association is trying to honor, to distinguish not only that people played football, but that people that play football go on and do outstanding things with their lives and in their communities.
A participant who never settled for just observing, Bob Baldwin's magnificent career and philanthropic generosity echo a time when life was different. One of the treasures of our greatest generation, Bob Baldwin found his place in the world with a vision and determination that often steered the course of history rather than follow it.
I was never a choice. My family had been Princeton, or my uncle started. We used to come here every fall for football. And so it's just natural choice. Once they'd been accepted, I was delighted.
I'm wearing a tie that Ronald Reagan gave me during the primaries in 1980. It says on it, "Democracy is not a spectator sport." Now, Bob Baldwin was not a spectator. He was a participant all the way through.
First of all, you should know, you've probably found out, an unbelievably competitive person. And anybody that had gone to Princeton with him and played sports with him would have had exactly the same views. But his legacy was, I think, that as much as anybody, and perhaps more than anybody, he forced the firm to take the path into becoming a much more complex firm that offered more services to its clients and was much more active around the world than it had been before. Morgan Stanley came in sort of into the modern times under his leadership.
Well, I think there's a connection there, but the two visions were very different going back to 1972 and then what happened in 2007, 2008. I think the clear similarity was you're under pressure to do something that oftentimes you don't agree with. And I think Bob, even though he had a lot of support from his partners back in the early 70s to do this, there was another number of partners that said, you know, this business is pretty good the way it is. We can just continue to have a small boutique partnership. And if you go back and you look at the other firms, if you look at Kuhn Loeb, if you look at Dillon Reed, you look at some of the old firms who are partnerships, they did not change as quickly as Morgan Stanley did. As a result, they're not around. But Bob and the team he worked with and the partners of Morgan Stanley made that decision. Sure, there's opposition. You need opposition, you need debate, you need to make sure you refine what the real objectives are. And to his credit and to their credit, Morgan Stanley still exists.
The first thing that I think about Bob is, and it's a little different from all his successes, is that he is a devoted family man. And I think that personifies him. He puts his family above everything. Football, Morgan Stanley. He has 5 wonderful children that he has raised. and he loves every one of them, and they love him back. And I think that that's the most important thing about Bob Baldwin, in spite of the fact that he's had great success in many other fields.
You know, when Mr. Walters coined the term education through athletics, it's truly that Bob's somebody I know, whether it's playing baseball or playing football, that education he received on the field meant a lot to him. And I know now as a head coach, my responsibility, it's not just the X's and O's, it's making sure that these guys gain the values, commitment, dedication, drive, whatever that is. My term is obsessive competitive. I want guys who are going to compete all the time. Bob did it from fall to winter to spring to summer. I mean, there wasn't a time there wasn't a ball in his hand. So that's the type of guys I want.
So all of these things you learn in sports, Bob learned. And I think from all I know of his business career, I was not with him in Morgan Stanley, but I could see from the outside that he was a strong leader, but a team player. And with his mental gifts, intellectual gifts, that made him a star.
I had many memories, all fun. I loved it every day here, and I loved it just.
There's a lot of orange and black in our family. Always will be. This is where we've ended up in retirement.
It is a place where bricks and mortar stand the test of time. But beyond the beauty of this soulful speck on the earth, it remains a place where the heart grows and stays. For Bob Baldwin, this place is home. Calvin Hill, Yale University.
September 1961. I left Baltimore and was on my way up to Riverdale. On the New Jersey Turnpike, I heard Ray Charles's latest record, Hit the Road Jack. And that's exactly what I was doing, hitting the road, going to someplace that was scary and I didn't know a whole lot about.
And so the journey began, a young man out to discover all the possibilities that lay ahead. It was up to him, through the open road of discovery, to nurture his deeply rooted beliefs and talents.
What you say? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack.
There were 13 quarterbacks, of which I was one and Calvin was one. But freshman year is a year of experimentation. They use a lot of players at a lot of different positions. For some reason, Calvin's 51-0 record in high school as a quarterback didn't carry enough weight, so they moved him to linebacker. He played some offense, but not a lot. And then about in the fourth game, he came in twice with his number, calling his play. He scored 2 touchdowns. So maybe the coaches said, gee, maybe you ought to play him on offense. So they started him the next game, and he scored 6 touchdowns.
I mean, I was, very much at home in New Haven because it reminded me a lot of where I came from, and so I could go out into the community and, talk to young people, get involved in various community action programs, and it was something I enjoyed doing. It helped me feel relevant, and that was a term we used a lot back then. Let's do something that's relevant that helps people beside ourselves.
I would say the best example of how Calvin influenced Yale was that after he graduated, a group of undergraduates, I guess we'd call them campus activists, led by Kurt Schmoke, one of our teammates, found out and determined that there was a tremendous need for daycare facilities for the Yale staff, and they got the very bright idea that the best way to fund this and to get it off the ground was to name the daycare facility after Calvin. So this really extraordinary group of undergraduates founded the Calvin Hill Daycare Center, and with full backing of Calvin, and to this day it is the premier daycare facility serving the Yale community. And I think it just shows the tremendous respect that undergraduates had for Calvin, that the Yale community has always had for Calvin, and the fact that down to this day it provides such vital services is a real monument to the man.
I can remember just being crestfallen because we were both undefeated. We had won something like 17 straight games. And, you know, the feeling on the Yale side was, of a defeat. Harvard was celebrating. And I actually thought up until I got back to Yale and read the Yale Daily News, I thought we'd lost the game. I thought, they had actually, they had beaten us by 1 point. That's how crestfallen we were. So I was relieved a little on Monday when I realized we had, we both had tied for the championship. I guess, the one good thing that came out of that weekend is, instead of going back to New Haven, the game was played in Cambridge. I stayed in Boston and met my wife. She was with a Harvard guy at a party. And so I got some revenge, I suppose, on Harvard. When I realized she was with the Harvard guy, I figure, it shouldn't be too difficult.
We started dating. Of course, Calvin revealed himself to be very erudite and intellectual, which he still is today. We've been married almost 42 years, and he's a very thoughtful Renaissance kind of man. But you know what? He was a thoughtful Renaissance man the day after he graduated from Yale.
Well, we knew that somebody was going to draft him. I didn't realize he'd be taken in the first round. And I also knew that he might be able to play other positions, such as tight end. I wasn't sure where the Cowboys were going to use him. But no matter where we went, there were pro scouts watching him. And they came by to the office and looked at all his film. And here again, because he had such great athleticism, and I do believe they knew the type of human being he was too, because that's important to these teams. People don't realize that. They knew they were not going to have any problems with him. And I'm sure that's why Jerry Jones hired him to help the people with the Cowboys, because he would be an ideal role model for those young men.
To know that I've been able to sort of watch his career and then sort of grow up and carve out my own career, and to be sort of, similar in a lot of ways, but to both have won Rookie of the Year. Just watching him and being able to internalize at a young age what it takes to be successful and what it takes to be a professional. Those are things that I saw on a daily basis, and now, throughout my career, I've applied.
Well, it only seems like yesterday, but 1969, I was a rookie with the Dallas Cowboys. I was 27 years old, and we had the #1 draft choice as another rookie, Calvin Hill, and he was a great, great football player. At one time, they were going to make him a tight end. He was maybe a middle linebacker. He was moved around, and all of a sudden, in an exhibition game, we're playing the 49ers, and everyone saw Calvin Hill as a great running back. And his rookie year was sensational. I sat on the bench, watched him play, but we played together and won our first Super Bowl. We had Calvin, Dwayne Thomas, and Walt Garrison, three of the great runners. Calvin, though, was just outstanding.
Following 12 seasons in the National Football League, playing in Super Bowls 5 and 6, Calvin Hill embarked on a lifelong mission of service, including numerous executive, board, and consulting assignments for professional sports franchises. Calvin Hill is a Renaissance man whose athletic prowess was equal to his kindness and his deeply rooted understanding of the human condition.
There's a reciprocity in helping. The more you give, the more you get. And I find that I'm the beneficiary of helping other people. They may be helped, but I get a good feeling, seeing somebody that you've helped go on. And the key is, you've helped them. Hopefully, they'll help somebody else. And that's what life should be about. It's not just about you. It's about, being able to influence and help other people. I believe that's the purpose of life.